Bucharest, a city of wide boulevards, high concrete buildings, and quiet streets after dark. But in the 1970s, something was stalking the night. Something so violent and unpredictable that people didn't know what to call it, so they gave it a name. This is the case of the vampire of Bucharest. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel where we talk about some of the most disturbing true crime cases. If that's something that you're interested in, you can subscribe and hit the notification button so you make sure not to miss any new uploads. Now, today's case comes from my home country, from Romania. It's not a myth, it's not a legend, and it's not supernatural. This is the true case of Ion Rîmaru, a man whose crimes terrified an entire city. Some killers are born into chaos. Some are shaped by it. And in Ion Rîmaru's case, the question that still haunts people was whether the monster started forming long before his first attack, maybe inside his own home. Details about Rîmaru's early life are limited in public sources, but many accounts describe him as socially awkward, withdrawn, and unstable. Ion Rîmaru was born in 1946 in Corabia, Romania. He grew up during a harsh period socially and economically, which mattered because family often lived under stress and strict social control. It's easy to turn this story into a crazy cursed bloodline, but the truth is, most of information about Ion Rîmaru's family is very limited in public sources, especially about his mother and his siblings. We do know that his parents are divorced and that he chose to stay with his father while his siblings went and lived with the mother. The truth is, Ion was problematic from his childhood. He was actually forced to repeat ninth grade, some say because of his grades. Some say that it was because he was caught having a relationship with one of the teacher's underage daughter. After this, at 18 years old, he was actually convicted for aggravated assault because he attacked a security guard while he was robbing something. What was he robbing, you ask? Watermelons. He was robbing watermelons and he got caught, so he punched the security guard and ran away. This got him 5 months in prison. Despite all of this, after he spent the 5 months in prison, Ion passed his final exams and was ready to head on to university. He chose Bucharest for his university studies. In 1966, with a grade of 533 out of 10, he got accepted into the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine University. And you might think that that's a very low grade, but the advantage was that there were more spots than students, so that's how he got in. One of his professors noticed that Ion was shy and semi-literate with not many interests. Probably these are facts that could explain why he had to repeat his second and his third years of studies. His roommates also noticed this behavior. He was not violent or anything, but he was behaving weirdly enough to stand out. so his roommates preferred to ignore him whenever possible. Some of them actually thought that he was working night shifts because, according to them, Jon would go out at night and would come back in the early hours of the morning looking disheveled. Sometimes they would see bruises or scratches on him, but seeing how Rîmaru wasn't really a talker, the roommates decided to just ignore it completely. One year, he was moved into a room with two people. It was him and another roommate. After a while, this guy asked to be moved because Rîmaru was sleepwalking. Actually, what was happening was that during his sleep, he would wake up violently screaming or like fighting the air. So, this complaint has got Rîmaru his own room, which he would lock with two padlocks, making sure no one could enter. His first documented victim was Elena Oprea, a waitress at a local restaurant. On a rainy night, it was the 8th of April 1970, Elena got off from her job. She took a bus. She was ready to get home. What she didn't know was that Jon was closely following her. After she got off the bus, Jon hit her multiple times with a crowbar. During the attack, she started screaming, but that did not stop Jon. It did, however, alert the neighbors. Jon fled the scene before police arrived, and unfortunately, Elena Oprea did not survive the attack. His second attack took place also on a rainy night, and we will see that this will become a pattern for his crimes. It was the 1st of June 1970 when Florea Rîmaru left her night shift job at the restaurant. She was actually really close to getting home, but all of a sudden, Jon appeared behind her and hit her in the head, leaving her unconscious. After this, he carried her unconscious body to a nearby cemetery where he would rape her. Besides this, he would also bite her cheeks and her thighs. And when I say bite, I don't mean like soft nibbles. No, he actually tore her skin apart. And in all of this madness, at some point, Florea regained consciousness, and Jon made her put her hand on a cross from the cemetery and swear that she would marry him. So obviously, she did that. And then Jon cut her wrist and started drinking her blood. After all of this, Jon offered to get her home. And obviously, it's not like Florea had any options. She had to say yes. But on the way home, she sees a truck driver. So she starts running towards him and asks for help. But unfortunately, this time again, Jon successfully fled the scene. After these horrendous crimes, there comes a pause. And that was because the students had their summer vacations. And during the summer vacation, Jon went back to his birthplace. Now, when the university year started again in October, Jon came back to Bucharest, and he was still thinking about how satisfied he was with what happened with the first victim, so he started planning his next attack. This time, the victim was Olga Băreitaru. She was a sous chef at a restaurant. Jon stalked her and found out her schedule and where she lived. So on the 22nd of November, 1970, Jon took advantage of the heavy rain and he hid himself in the victim's building. Now, Olga was coming home from work. She got inside, and that's when Jon hit her with a crowbar. After this, the victim says that she does not remember anything. What was certain was that she was screaming, and that was making Jon very nervous. He was extremely scared that he might get caught. So he started hitting her multiple times until she went unconscious. He took her unconscious body and carried it outside somewhere behind the building, and he started raping her. He did stop because a light went on in a room that had a view of that area. So he got up, took the victim's purse, and ran away. Olga survived the attack, but she had serious injuries that left her with a grade 3 disability. After his attack on Olga, he went back to his birthplace to celebrate the winter holidays with his family as if nothing happened. But during the winter holidays, his family noticed that there was a change in him, and they talked about how even his face had changed and his eyes were dark. His grandma actually jokingly told him that he needs to see a doctor because there's something wrong with him. His grandma said, "You look like a criminal." Little did she know. However, Jon just ignored the proposal and said that he does not need a doctor, that there's nothing wrong with him. Now, whether this change that his family noticed was happening because he had remorse for what he had done, or because of fear that he would get caught, we will never know. Or maybe we do have an answer to that question, seeing how what we just talked about didn't seem to stop Jon from committing his next crimes. This time, the victim, Georgica Svetko, was a waitress at a very known restaurant in Bucharest. She gets off from work, she takes the bus, she gets off the bus, and she starts walking towards her home. Now, at some point, she notices that somewhere in front of her there's a shady looking guy, but she doesn't think anything of it. And when she gets next to him as she was walking and he was waiting, Jon jumps and tries to cover her mouth. Now she immediately starts screaming, and Jon is furious. He takes out the crowbar and hits her several times in the head. But he had to stop because the screams already alerted people. So he grabs her bag and runs. He probably saw this as a fail. And the next night, he went hunting again. This time, he was armed with a knife instead of his usual crowbar. This time, the victim was Elisabeta Florea, another waitress who got off from her job later in the night. She got on the same bus as Jon, and when she got off to her station, Jon followed her. After a while, he grabbed her from behind and started stabbing her. Now, obviously, she started screaming, so in an attempt to silence her, Jon grabs her and smashes her against the gate. Then he puts the knife through to her throat and tries raping her. However, the screams alerted a resident who came out to see what was happening. And then again, Jon successfully fled the scene one more time. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think that because he was able to escape so many times that it gave him that like boost of confidence to keep doing this, that maybe he thought that he will always escape? Or what do you think? What do you think his thought process were, and how the fact that he was not getting caught and that he manages to escape every single time, how do you think that influences his decision or his thought process? I'm asking this because all these crimes that he was committing had the Bucharest on high alert. There were multiple police filters, patrol cars, just cops everywhere, and even this didn't stop him. He managed to do more crimes that I will tell you all about in a second. But I wanted to talk about one thing that obviously the women were now afraid to get out after the dark. And multiple women had actually dyed their hair to brunette because Rîmaru had a preference for blondes, and the women would dye their hair in an attempt to make sure not to attract the killer's attention. Although during his killing spree, Rîmaru also attacked brunettes. But again, all of this police presence didn't scare Rîmaru. Actually, on the night of 4th of March 1971, he went hunting again. This time he was armed with both the knife and the crowbar. And he knew exactly who he was gonna attack. He'd been stalking her for days. He knew her schedule and where she lived. When Fanica Elie got off from her restaurant job, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She was headed home. It was a snowy night. What she didn't know was that Ion Rîmaru was waiting for her just next to her building. And when she got close, he appeared from behind and hit her multiple times in the head with the crowbar. He then dragged her body into a secluded area where he raped her. He bit her chest and her thighs. After he was done, he took the victim's watch and purse and fled the scene. He sold that watch the very next day. A month after this attack, Florea Rîmaru, Ion's father, came to visit him at his university housing, and he was surprised at the state of the room. Apparently, it was extremely messy. So he starts questioning Ion about the mess in the room. But also, his father notices some clothes that seem to be stained with dirt and blood. So he asked his son, "What's up with the blood?" And Yon coldly replied, "Oh, I asked a woman to have sex with me, and she said no, so we kind of got into it." Excuse me, what? I mean, I'm not sure what type of reaction you're supposed to have when you hear your son telling you something like that. But I will tell you what Yon's father did. He took the clothes and washed them. Yep, you heard that right. He took the clothes, he washed them, he brought them back. He covered for his son. And actually, this should not surprise us, as Yon's father helped him in the past hide money or stuff that he stole. We have to ask ourselves, did Florea knew what his son was doing? Or to what degree did he know? Because obviously he knew that he rapes and robs women. But did he know that his son was the man that the whole Bucharest police force was looking for? All of Rîmaru's crimes were horrible. However, on the night of 8th of April 1971, he would commit the most horrible of them. After he was done with his exam session at the university, at night he went out armed with an axe and a knife. He went to the city center looking for his next victim. There, he encountered a woman and just blurted out to her, "Do you want to have sex with me?" And that woman laughed in his face and went inside a building. She has no idea what she just escaped. Now, Rîmaru, with his ego hurt and full of rage, is looking for the next victim. Unfortunately, he encountered Gheorghița Popa. He asked her to have sex with him, and she said no and pushed him. Now, filled with rage, he takes out the axe and strikes Gheorghița in the head multiple times. He then takes out the knife and stabs her so many times and so violent that he actually cuts himself too in the process. He then drags her lifeless body, rapes her, and he bit her private area so hard that he actually ripped it from her body. He then went on his way. He stopped by a public bathroom to wash up all the blood, took a taxi, and went home. The following month, in May of 1971, something happened. Police called it the Week of Terror because Rîmaru decided to go out and attack on the 1st, on the 4th, and on the 6th of May. On the 1st of May, Stana Sărăcin encountered Rîmaru after getting off of work. He approached her and asked, "What's the time?" So when she went to look at her watch, Rîmaru took advantage and touched her private area. She slapped him, and he was absolutely shocked about this. So it took a while for him to compose himself, and then he punched Stana so hard that she fell on her back. Now, she started screaming, and while Jon was getting ready to take the axe out, a neighbor went outside and started screaming at him to leave the woman alone. So, obviously, like the coward he is, because he only attacks defenseless women at night, he fled the scene. On the 4th of May, Rîmaru attacked Mihaela Ursu. He hit her from behind with the crowbar on her head and then dragged her in a garden nearby. Now, Mihaela tried to scream, so Rîmaru put the knife to her mouth, but in the struggle, he cut her throat. But that didn't stop him. He took 3 bricks, put them under the victim's abdomen, and he raped her. Unfortunately, Mihaela did not survive the attack. That same night, Jon Rîmaru was not done. He went looking for his next victim, and he encountered Maria Iordache, who was going to work. He hit her from behind with the crowbar, but Maria didn't pass out. She got up and she started running. This took Rîmaru by surprise, so as he was running to get her, he dropped the crowbar. And this moment gave Maria enough time to hide and successfully escape. It was a very rainy spring, so Rîmaru took full advantage of that. And on the night of 6th of May, he went looking for a victim. He found Margareta Enache, who was a waitress at the restaurant. He followed her from the inside, and then once she finished her shift, he followed her outside as well. Now, after a while, when he considered that no one would see them, he took out his axe and struck Margareta in the head. Now, a security guard working nearby took notice of Rîmaru and the woman passing by, and when he heard a scream, he immediately ran towards them. Scared of the security guard's appearance, he ran away immediately. Unsatisfied with the acts that he just committed, Rîmaru takes the bus and goes on a hunt for a next victim. He encounters Elena Buluci, who after a while notices that Rîmaru was looking at her kind of weird. So in an attempt to guess his intentions, I guess, she goes and asks him, "What's the time?" Now, in that moment, Rîmaru takes out his axe and strikes her in the head. He then drags her body again in a spot where he thinks no one can see them, hoping to abuse her further. But he actually gets scared because he heard some footsteps nearby. So he runs away. And in this case, unlike any other time, he doesn't rob the victim. So after he left two women almost dead, he decided it was time to go again. He followed Juliana Frunzinski. She was a cashier, and that night she was going to deposit the money that the store made during the day. And Yon knew that. Actually, Juliana was accompanied by another female co-worker, but Rîmaru didn't care. After a while, he came out and hit Juliana with the axe. The co-worker saw this and she started running. And she found the policeman, but by the time they came back, Juliana was in an awful state and Ion Rîmaru was nowhere to be found. Now, after this, he went back to his university housing to hide the money that he just stole from Juliana. And you would think that after the night he had, he probably needs some rest. But you would be wrong because Rîmaru goes out again. But this time he encounters a policeman who asks him to identify himself. Now, instead of doing that, Rîmaru starts running away. The policeman follows him and actually draws his gun and shots 2 times. But he missed. Scared that he was gonna get caught, he actually confessed to his mother that he stole a huge amount of money from a woman. Now, hearing this, the mother demands the father take action immediately. This has gone too far. Now we know what type of relationship Florea and Jon have. So obviously the father helped the son. He actually took the money from him and he was gonna keep it. So in case someone was to search Jon or his room, they would not find the money. And then they told the mother, like, oh, don't worry, we got it figured out. It's been solved. The operation to arrest the vampire of Bucharest had the name The Vulture, the same name as the street that Gheorghița Popa was murdered on. This operation managed to draw in services of 6,000 members of law enforcement agencies, 100 cars, and 40 motorcycles. However, what would get Jon Rîmaru arrested would be a medical excuse note found under the body of Mihaela Ursu. Even though it was bloody and it had been in the rain, the police eventually managed to figure out what hospital it was issued from and who was the doctor that issued the excuse note. Now they went to the hospital and they looked through their records and discovered that in that month, 83 students had asked that doctor for a medical excuse note. Now, from those 83 students, there were only 15 that didn't present the excuse note to the university. And then after a while, they managed to tie this excuse note to Jon Rîmaru. He was actually consulted by a doctor 2 months prior, and he was diagnosed with psychopathy. Anyone surprised? I'm not. Jon Rîmaru was arrested on the 27th of May 1971. The police went to execute a search warrant at his university housing, and Jon was not there. However, he walked right in the middle of the search warrant and he tried to run away, but the police caught him and they took his bag. When they looked inside it, they found that Jon was carrying an axe and a knife. And also, I put on the screen the names of the victims and if they survived or not, so we can have like a chronological order of everything that happened, because I know it gets a bit hard to follow. But what's interesting is that this is the exact same thing that police had found in a journal that Jon Rîmaru was keeping. So they found a journal where he noted every single crime that he committed in chronological order. And also he noted what items went missing during these crimes. And in the journal, there was also a mention of the medical excuse note that he lost. So he was well aware that he lost it at some point. What he wasn't aware was that it was gonna be the end of him. At first, Rîmaru tried to convince the authorities that he was not responsible on the grounds of insanity. He claimed that he didn't know that the woman involved would suffer or die. Public attention to the trial was immense, and the proceedings took a dramatic turn when Rîmaru pleaded insanity. Although he thought that he convinced officials of his mental instability, a report states otherwise. Mental illness did not cloud Rîmaru's judgment, and he knew what he was doing all along. The judge sentenced Jon Rîmaru to death by firing squad, and Rîmaru appealed, but all of his appeals were dismissed. So on October 23rd, 1971, he was taken by officers to his place of execution. He was very violent, screaming that he wants to live, and he was actually trying to escape. He was biting his own clothes and he was very agitated. When they asked for a final wish, he begs for them to bring his father to witness the execution because he's the only one that's guilty of all of this. Now, you may wonder, was Jon's father guilty because he didn't raise Jon in a loving way? He didn't teach him right from wrong? Or maybe he was guilty because he was beating his mother every single day and Jon had to watch all of that. And you could be right, he was guilty of all of that. However, Jon was talking about something else. During the investigations, he claimed that his father actually taught him how to attack, when to attack, what to use, and so on. But at that moment, police thought that he was just trying to ease his punishment. At this point in the case, you feel like, oof, there's so many questions, like, what did he mean by that? But don't you worry, because all of these questions would get an answer on the 23rd of October, 1972, exactly 1 year after his son's execution. Florea Rîmaru fell from a moving train and died. After examining his prints, he was identified as the author of 4 murders from 1944. Dr. Constantin Tsurai made it his life mission to catch the killer in the storm, because that was the name given to the murderer from the 1944. He got that name because he would attack only during rainy nights. He attacked and raped women in their own house while they were alone and defenseless. From the crime scenes, Dr. Tsurai only had a fingerprint and a shoe print, nothing else. During 28 years, he investigated. He eventually retired, but he would still pass by the morgue from time to time. And luck has it that he passed by the morgue on the day of 23rd of October 1972 when Florea Rîmaru's body was there. Now, when he went to look at the prints, he was absolutely stunned. He started shaking, he went red, and started asking everyone, who is this man? And everyone was like, oh, he's like Florea Rîmaru or something. He just fell from a train. And Dr. Tsurai said, no, this is the man I've been looking for the past 28 years. Dr. Butoy, a psychologist, theorizes that a gene predisposing one to violent crimes was transmitted from father to son, as the murders happened under remarkably similar circumstances. But what do you think? Do you think that a gene made this man be a serial killer? And if that's so, why none of his other siblings took the same route? Or do you think that the environment that he lived in and the information that was provided by his father led him to becoming a serial killer? Or maybe a combination of both? I would love to read about your theories in the comments and what are your opinions? Do you think that this man was born to be a serial killer? Was he made into one? Was there anything that could have been done to prevent him becoming a serial killer? Let me know what you think in the comments, and until next time, I want you to take care of yourself and stay safe. Bye.